How do everybody? Nigel back here again with another video, and today we've got a quick inbox review and we're going to be looking at AMK's Tomcat F-14D. So this sometimes gets compared with the Tamiya Tomcat, quite rightly, because they came out roughly about the same sort of time. But with this one, it's about 30 to 40 quid cheaper, and you get all the slats and what have you to build with it. I've heard it's a very good kit. Okay, I say we. My wife sells it via the Crafting Well, and it's on our website. So if you fancy one, go and grab yourself one after this inbox review. So there's quite a lot of plastic in this box. Okay, so you can see it's actually quite deep, it's quite big, and it's stuffed full. Sorry, just move stuff out of the way. Stuffed full of loads and loads of plastic. So if I just tip this up, you can just see, okay, absolutely jam-packed in there. So I'm going to open this all up and then we'll get cracking. Okay, so we'll start off with the instruction sheet. Okay, now I've only ever seen one AMK kit, and that was the Israeli Kafir, whatever. So it's the Mirage with the canods on, so the Israeli version. So we'll get straight into it. Okay, some nice colour profiles in here. We've got the colours up the top, mainly in FS numbers. Some haven't really got them any, but they shouldn't be too hard to really work with. Then we've got the Tomcatters and the Bounty Hunters. Okay, start off, we will look at the actual belly of the fuselage. Okay, so you can see we need to start drilling some holes. Same in the intakes. I believe they are for some fuel tanks. Okay, like so. Then we move into the full colour profiles with the colours down the bottom, and it looks like in this part, because it doesn't do it on the front, so there's nothing up there that tells us the colours, but it does it down here where we've got the colour callouts in Mr. Colour. Okay, stencils, and then we move into some of the parts. So we've got the cockpit, where the decals go on the cockpit. We've got the injection seat, the pylons and adapters for some of the bombs and launchers that sit in the belly in between the intakes. And then we've got the AIM 54C, AIM 7M and AIM 9M. We again with a colour call out and all the stencil data. We then move on to the cockpit. So we start with the injection seat. What's good about this one, you actually get some harnesses. With the Tamiya one, you have to buy them separately. We've then got it moving on to putting the cockpit panels together, all separate parts, so you can paint it separate before then attaching them to the actual cockpit wall and so on. We move then on to the forward or the nose wheel well. Okay, so you can see some nice detail in there on the side walls, on the bulkheads, and actually on the roof of the landing gear. We also have parts for the I believe that's the boarding ladder just there, and then that whole cockpit slots into the nose part, so into this part from the rear. Then move on to putting some of the coning on. So for the pilot and the rear navigator, putting the nose on and having the cockpit open or closed. We then move on to the engines, which again different from the Tamiya one. This has got an actual full engine, so the Tamiya one sort of ends there, and then we put the nozzles on, so the 4-part nozzles go on. Moving on to the intakes, very similar to how the Tamiya one does it. And then we have the parts for the intake rams. Okay, so the rams will be open or closed depending on what speeds it's going at. So it says up there subsonic speeds, okay, or supersonic. Okay, so we've got there attaching the intake ramps there. We then move on to having the intake ramps at supersonic speeds. Before then, we attach the intake trunks to the actual fuselage with the fins, with the dorsal fins, belly fins, can't remember, doesn't matter. Okay, and then we'll look at attaching the actual tail wing position, so the horizontal stabilizers. So these parts actually slot through. So it looks like you can put in whichever part you prefer, depending on how you want those parts positioned. We've then got the engine intake ramps, main landing gear bays, all going into the lower fuselage before we start looking at the wings. So this is the major difference from basic Tamiya kit. So the basic Tamiya kit, you don't get any of this. You can buy a launch version which will have the slats and flaps on there, okay, but that's an extra 10 to 15 quid, if not more, if I remember right. I can't remember off the top of my wings. So there you've got the open wings, closed wings, your tail parts, okay, the rear air brakes. Before then we attach the wings to the different parts, so you've got wings swept back, and wings parked. Okay, now my Tamiya one I did with wings extended just because I thought it looked cool. And then we've got all the little bits and pieces that we can attach to the actual aircraft, and the I want to say covers for where the wings actually slot in. Okay, so they're the covers that actually go where the wings open and fold. So you have two different types. The ventral tail wings, or tail, so that's 15, 16, and then attaching wings, engine nozzles. Okay, again we've got the boarding ladder, which then the aircraft nose slots back into the actual fuselage itself. Again, very similar to Tamiya, but as you can see down here, there's a little bit that sticks out at the bottom of this, so I don't know what that fit's going to be like. Before we move into the landing gear, main front landing gear, attaching the front landing gear with all the doors, attaching the main landing gear, air brakes open, which again on the Tamiya one you can't do, cockpit, okay, and all the different attachment part, the PEs and all that sort of stuff. And then we've got the, it says under fuselage pallets, so these are these long type pylons, and then fuel tanks, wing grooves, and actual weapons loadout just here. Before then we've got this nice picture telling you what to actually put on the aircraft, depending on how you want to build it. And then at the very back we've got our parts layout. Okay, so quite a few parts, quite a few sprues there, okay, for you to be working with. So we're talking about the sprues, let's get cracking with it. Okay, so I'll just go from the top and work my way down. Hopefully I can keep the bags all together, so when I come to put it back together, hopefully I can get it in the box without any too much issues. So starting with the wings, so we have upper and lower wing parts, okay, for the different types, so whether we want it open or closed. So you can see on here on this one, these are the parts for having the slats extended and the flaps extended with all the flap parts as well. And you can actually see there's some really nice detail on these parts here all the way along the wing. Okay, some nice detail there. like how they've done the slats, how some what I've seen might have had this part as a 2-part and then lining it all up and sanding it, so you don't have to worry about a seam along that leading edge. And then we've got the strengthening bars going all the way down. Okay, we then move on to the wings as a whole. So you can see here, okay, we can still put we've still got this cutout, but it's this time it's here, so you see how it's rolled around again. So that's really nice. So when you come to fit this, you haven't got to then sand and lose all that lovely detail actually on that leading edge just there. All right, tails, okay, so the 2 inserts for the main tail, and then some of the flaps dotted about, and again these nice strengthening wings just there. Next part, okay, is with another 2 bags. And this part, we got the covers for where we were having the wings extended or folded up. Okay, we have some parts for the wheelbase, so you can just see there's some really nice detail just on there. Some more of the bulkheads, part of the air brake system just there with a nice only problem maybe being that ejection mark. Okay, the part to make the wings actually extended. Okay, looking really nice. We then move on to the part with the cockpit, the nose wheel ceiling, some of the bay bulkheads, the intakes and all that sort of stuff. So we just wander around. Again, some nice patterning on there. Okay, cockpit walls, so these bits at the back with all these fuses. Okay, the air brake, that's part of I think that's part of the nose. Okay, so again, some really nice detail. We've got the main wheel doors, again pin marks. Okay, how visible they will be seen is, well, I don't know. On the aircraft, those ones potentially will be, so they need some work to get rid of. So upper and lower fuselage is next. Okay, so let's put that one over there. So we'll start with the lower fuselage, and again there's some nice detail in the wheel wells just there. We've got some nice rivet and panel line detail. The panel lines look really nice, and the rivet detail, so I'll just run you down it so you can see for yourself. Okay, and then again I get a lot of strengthening parts in there as well. And then we have the upper fuselage. Now, what I like about this, I don't know whether it was better, but the Tamiya one, this was 2 parts. Okay, with this one you've got a full part, so you don't have to worry about that join there. Okay, but again, some really nice rivet detail on there. And as we go down, you can see it looks really nice actually. Next one, we're going to be looking at the intakes. There's 2 of these, so I'm just going to look at one. Okay, I'll put that over there, and there you can see again this hinge detail is really nice. Just here, look, you can see the hinge detail going along here. Really nicely done. Again, rivets, and again, it's a shame. I'll just point this out with this. On the Tamiya one, there was quite a pronounced seam mark. So this is where the two molds have joined together, and it's left a barely noticeable line going all the way down. You may not be able to see it. Let's see if we can get you focused. Okay, but it comes all the way down the actual airframe. Sorry, the airframe, the fuselage, the engines, and it's got it on two sides. So it's got it going down there and going down there. That shouldn't be too hard to get rid of. It actually looks less of a problem than the Tamiya one. Okay, but other than that, it looks okay. Next up, I've got some cockpit parts. So where does it open? There we are. And we've got 3 sprues here. Okay, so we'll start off with the cockpit part. Okay, and straight away you can see this has got the fabric sort of texture on there. Okay, we've got the dials, we've got buttons and everything like that that's on there. And this one's got the little bit of fabric texture, which the Tamiya one didn't have. I had to try and simulate that with paint. Okay, because those two parts would actually be a canvas covering. So again, some really nice detail on there. One part of the seats. So we've got 2 bang seats. There's 2 different sides, the cushions and everything else. Unfortunately, the seats haven't got the same sort of fabric texture. It's not too hard to put in, just maybe some tissue paper on there. It should give you some nice fabric looking seats on there. And then we've got the other parts, which again has got some lovely detail on there with the grab handles just at the front. We've then got some pylons. So these are for the under the wing at the leading edges just before it starts falling out. So just the front part pylons. We've got the central pylons for the belly. Okay, and again lots of really nice detail on there. We have 2 of the same sprues, so I'll just take one out. Okay, so again some more pylons. These ones I'll probably be for the wing. Okay, so one of these central ones again. Again, it's got some nice raised and recessed detail on there. We've then got another bag with 2 sprues in which are identical. So these ones are, looks like the fuel tanks. I can get them apart. Okay, fuel tanks and engine nozzle, engine and compressor fans, which look really sharp. And what's good, those fans there, you can actually see through the fans properly, like you would do on the real thing. Again, downside, I don't think you're going to see too much in there, but you have got pin marks there and there, and these 2 are our fuel tanks. Okay, last packet of plastic, so last bag of plastic sprues, grey plastic sprues. Okay, so this one we've got the tails, some of the engine nozzles. Okay, so we've got the close and open, and you've got separate ones for the separate petals that go around like that. Okay, I've always preferred them being open, which will make it a little bit easier to paint. Again, harking back to the Tamiya one, that was all one part, and these little petals bits at the top that stick out here were all different colours. Okay, so again, some really nice detail on these petal parts, really sharp moulding. and then some more parts for the intake ramps. Okay, some of the fins, and for the different wing options, so swept and parked. Okay, with some parts that are for the doors and undercarriage and all that sort of good stuff, and the arrestor hook. So next we move on to the boxes of parts. So first up, okay, is going to be the forward fuselage. Okay, so we'll take this out, put it back over there, and you can see how it's protected in the plastic. Okay, and I really like how they've protected this part, especially the nose, because this can be prone to getting scratched and damaged. But with that all being a set one piece like that, it means you're not going to have any seam lines to get rid of. So their hope is when you put this together, there's not going to be any sort of seam lines or anything like that. Okay, so that looks really nice. Next up we have the weapons. Okay, I'm not going to get all these out. What you can see, they're all nicely packed, all one piece. Okay, so I'll just get these AIM 7s out. Okay, so we can have a look at them. I'll only take one out. You can see, other than putting the nose cap on, all the fins are on there. They're all really thin. Some really nice detail there. I have to get rid of some these pin marks, but that's where the missile attaches to the aircraft. Okay, so just put these over there out of the way, and then we've got our clear parts and our landing gears parts. So again, really nicely protected, though that has broken there. Okay, we'll look at that in a minute. But we have got some of the landing parts. So there we are, really nicely done. So the canopy would sit over the top of that, which we'll look at in a minute. The tail lights and what have you. And then we've got the main landing gears. Wait a minute, what have we got there? Right, so we've got the main landing gears, then we've got the launch landing gear, and then a normal landing gear without the launch part on there. Okay, because obviously when that's on the aircraft, that bit would be attached to the catapult to make sure it's got enough speed on takeoff. Okay, so put that over there. Last up we have the decals and a small bit of photo etch, and there you can see some grills and some of the harnesses. Can't get my words out there. Okay, looks really nice. I'm not bothered going to take that out. And then we've got the decals. Now I don't know who does the decals, whether they're their own or whether somebody else, so we'll take a look at them. Okay, so we've got two sheets. We have stencil data and we've actually got the markings. All right, so just bear with. So artwork designed by Galaxy Decals and it just says AMK. They do look really nice. Not massive amounts of carrier film, but enough to get things done. So you can probably see it better if I can just catch the light correctly. If I can't, I do apologise. You can see it on the AJ there slightly. Okay, so not the worst, but definitely not the best. The colour looks okay. The problem will be how translucent this white is. and stuff like that. We're not going to get the stencils out because there's no point. They're the same as those. So that's AMK's F-14. Okay. How does it stack up compared to the Tamiya one? I think the Tamiya one's slightly more refined in areas. We know the Tamiya one goes together really, really well, but you have more options with this one. And the panel lines, the detail looks about on par. I think the Tamiya ones are just a little bit sharper, maybe. Okay, but not overly sharp. Too overly much better. Okay, £30 better or thereabouts? Not really. I built the F-14 by Tamiya because I wanted a quicker, easier build. It still took me 6 months. I knew for a fact it would go together really, really well. How does this go together? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Okay, and there might be an addendum on end of this because I do have the Great Wall Hobby kit coming, so we'll have to have a look at that one. Anyway, that's it for now. Hope you enjoyed that. See you in the next one. Bye.